सर्वेश्वर भगवान की जय, गंगा मैया की जय, भारत माता की जय, धरती माता की जय, हर हर महादेव।
ओम जय गंगे माता मैया, जय गंगे माता,
जो नर तुमको ध्याता,
जो नर
मैया जी को ध्याता, मनवांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
चंद्र से ज्योत तुम्हारी, जल निर्मल आता।
ओ मैया जल निर्मल आता, शरण पड़े जो तेरे, शरण पड़े जो तेरे, सो नर तर जाता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
एक ही बार जो तेरी शरणागति आता।
ओ मैया शरणागति आता, यम के त्रास मिटा कर, यम के कष्ट मिटा कर, परम गति पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
मंगलकारिणी मैया, तू है सुखदाता।
ओ मैया तू है सुखदाता, तेरी गोद में आकर, तेरी शरण में आकर, मन शांति पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता।
आरती मात तुम्हारी, जो जन नित गाता।
ओ मैया प्रेम सहित गाता, दास वही असहज में, भक्त वही असहज में, मुक्ति को पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। ओम जय गंगे माता। मैया जय गंगे माता, जो नर तुमको ध्याता, जो नर मैया जी को ध्याता, मनवांछित फल पाता। ओम जय गंगे माता। जय गंगे माता। जय गंगे माता। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव।
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे
सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग्
भवेत्।
ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय राधा रमण हरि बोल।
जय जय राधा रमण
जय जय राधा
रमण जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा जय जय राधा रमण
जय जय राधा रमण हरि
बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय जय राधा रमण जय जय राधा
रमण जय जय राधा रमण हरि
One of the things that I really love about the Indian spiritual tradition, the Hindu dharmic tradition, is it's a religion and a way of life, rather, a philosophy, that is rooted in the idea that we suffer due to ignorance rather than due to sin. That's rooted in the idea that who we are at the core is actually pure and divine, and that all of the things that we do, the mistakes we do, that of course we suffer the consequences of, are done out of ignorance. But it's not a sense of you are a sinner and that's why you did it, or you are a sinner and you should be punished. It's much more, you were ignorant, you did this, this therefore has ramifications. So you didn't study in school, you failed the exam, therefore you can't go on to the next grade, you have to stay back. You didn't do what your boss told you to do, you slacked off at work, you went out and partied, you didn't do your work, you got fired. Or you didn't get a promotion. Not a sense of you are a sinner because you didn't do your work, therefore you've been punished, but simply a cause and effect of you didn't do the work, therefore you didn't get the fruits of doing the work, which is a promotion or a raise or to keep your job or whatever it may be. And in the same way, in our lives, that which we do that we would consider sinful, if we use the word sinful, okay, so if we went around and we all threw out words that we thought of as sin, okay, right? So I'll throw some out. Murder, rape, cheating, right? These are all sins. The things, if you look at 10 Commandments that say, thou shalt not, right? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery. These are sins. But in the Hindu tradition, what we're taught is that people who do those things, they do them not because they are sinners, but because they acted out of ignorance. Now, they still have to suffer the consequences, karmic consequences, legal consequences, all of the consequences of their actions. But the core motivator for the action was not a sinful self, but that it was ignorance. That I forgot who I am. Because if I remember that who I am is soul, why would I kill? Why would I steal? Why would I rape? Why would I cheat? All of these things, if I'm living in a conscious awareness that I am full, that I am soul, that I am divine, that I am consciousness, I'm going to live in a very different way than if I'm living identified as I'm this body, I'm this role. Because then, if I'm living in that way, which we would say is ignorance, it's ignorant identification. Oh, boom. Is he okay? Good. Ignorant identification with the body. Well, then I want things. I want more and more and more and more. Then I have anger. Then I have lust. Then I have greed. These are all, as we were just talking about, they are literally things that exist in my physical brain. They're chemical, they're electrical patterns in my brain. But if I identify them as me, then I act on them. Not because I'm a sinner, but because I ignorantly forgot who I am. And in that ignorance of forgetting the fullness of myself, I have believed a myth, a lie, an indoctrination that says you are this body. It's never enough. It's never exactly right. You need more. You need more money. You need more success. You need more wealth. You need more people who adore you. You need more appreciation. You need more, all of these things. More people who dance according to your tune. I need those things if I identify as the body. And in order to get them then, I'm going to do all sorts of things. I could lie, I could cheat, I could steal, which we would call sins. But I don't find that talking about them as sins is very useful. Because if you've sinned or you are a sinner, there's really nowhere to go from there. Right? Okay, there's going to be a punishment. You deal with your punishment when the punishment, there's no room really to move. But if what we realize is, I'm pure, I'm divine, but I forgot. Well, then there's always room to remember. We know exactly where we need to go. I need to remember. I need to stop forgetting. I need to do whatever I can do so that I don't forget. Because I don't know how many days I have left. I don't know how many years I have left. Nobody knows. I don't have time to forget. I don't have time for the nonsense of engaging in things that we would call sin. Those are things we engage in if you think you've got all the time in the world. Yeah, I'm going to lie and cheat and steal and kill and rape now, and I'll wake up tomorrow. But if you don't know how much time there is, you better wake up now. Otherwise, you're just going to have to come back and do it all over again. We're going to have to keep doing it till we get it. So that's the focus on ignorance rather than sin. Taking drugs is a very specific ignorance. Taking drugs is, look, let's move back. The longing to take drugs is a very spiritual longing. The longing to take drugs says, I want freedom. That's what taking drugs is. This pain, this fear, this ego, this memory, this identity, this situation, whatever it is too painful. I can't deal with it. I want to be free of it. I cannot figure out how to get myself free logistically, so I'm going to free my mind from it by taking drugs. And in that, when I do that, it obviously doesn't free me from anything, but it gives me a temporary numbness to it. And so the reason it's ignorance is it's just the wrong path. The destination is very right. It is our birthright to be free of pain, of grudges, of our identity, of our history, of our egos. It is our right to be free of those things. Every single one of us, regardless of what has happened to us, regardless of how old we are, regardless of what life situation we are in, every single one of us has the right to be free. And so taking drugs is pointing to exactly the right destination, freedom of the bondage of this moment. But the path is entirely wrong, because all the drugs do is actually make you more stuck. They don't actually make you free. Then you're a prisoner of both your current situation and your addiction. All you've done is you've added an entirely another extra layer of bondage. First, I was only stuck with my own mind or my own situation. Now I'm stuck with my mind, my situation, and my drug addiction. I haven't actually attained any freedom. So it's ignorance in how I'm going about it. But the yearning is very pure and very real and very true. And so for people who are using drugs, what I would say is, you've got absolutely the right yearning. Yes, you should be free. Yes, you deserve to be free. But there is a way that actually makes you free, whereas these drugs just make you more stuck. Where I was a slave to my mind, I was a slave to my thoughts, I was a slave to my anger and my grudges and my pain and my indoctrination and all of these negative beliefs and patterns that I've brought into my life. Now I've become a slave to drugs as well. And I can only be free when I'm not a slave to any of it. And that's what the spiritual path gives us. Because the only way to actually become free is to find that freedom. And the only place that that freedom lies is in awareness of the soul. That's the aspect of us which is free. And so until and unless I access that, and touch that and connect with that and identify as that, I'm going to live stuck. When I'm talking about drugs, I'm not talking about medicine. So there are, and it's a fine line. It's a very, very fine line, obviously, because medicines, of course, are drugs on some level. There are absolutely people who suffer from imbalances in the brain, imbalances in the body that require a medicine or a drug to balance them. People with diabetes, for example. The body is unable to produce the right amount of insulin in the right way at the right time. Insulin, nobody would say, or very few people, only absolute purists would say, no, you shouldn't take medicine for your diabetes. Most of us understand that's medicine, not drugs. Go a step further. We start looking at things like antidepressant medicine, anti-anxiety medicine, for example, medicine for bipolar disorder, medicine for schizophrenia, so our antipsychotic medicine. I mean, there's all kinds of pharmaceutical ways of working with issues that most of us think of are mental, emotional issues. I'm not against those at all. Not at all. As long as what we're using them for is to treat an actual imbalance in the brain and not a temporary life moment that actually requires our attention. It's very easy to not process grief at a time when there's grief that needs to be processed in my life, because I could just take an antidepressant and feel better. That's a time I would not recommend that. If there's a life situation that has happened that needs to be grieved, that needs to be experienced, well, we experience it. And only after you realize that there's an inability would we even think about giving medicine for that. But if what we're dealing with really is chemical imbalances that have plagued people for decades, keeping them from living their lives, by all means, I would say, take the medicine. Absolutely. Now you bring up cannabis. It's a controversial issue, of course. There are places it's legal, there's places it's not. There's all sorts of distinctions between which aspects of it you're taking. On a personal level, as taken for so many things that I know people who take it for, whether it's pain, whether it's insomnia. I mean, there's lots and lots of ailments and illnesses that it has been shown it really works for. And I'm very, very happy that it's been legalized in so many places. On the other hand, we also know that it has a history of being used as just a way to escape mentally. I'm bored, let's get high. I'm stressed, let's get high. It was a hard week, let's get high. So we know also that there's that aspect of it. That's not something I would recommend. Now again, I wouldn't call it a sin by any means, not even close. It's just not a choice that I would make, or a choice that I would recommend to someone whose highest goal was their own awakening. But if what you're using it for is pain, is an illness, and that pain or that illness is preventing you from living your life, then whether it's an aspirin or a Tylenol or an Advil or cannabis, whatever it is, or an antidepressant, if that's going to help you be able to actually live your life and experience who you are, I don't have any problem with that at all. I realize that's controversial. I realize there are places it's still illegal, but I'm just telling you on a very personal level from my heart, I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. It actually has a lot fewer side effects than a lot of the medicine that's available over the counter. And from what I've heard, is much more effective. But we also just do have to be aware that it has a very long history of being abused as just a way to get high. And that's not what we're talking about. To experience the joy of who we are, we actually need to use the brain, because the brain is the medium through which we experience. It's the medium through which, whether it's an internal experience or an external experience, the medium through which I process it. That doesn't mean, though, that the joy is existing in the brain. The brain is the way through which it's getting processed. It's the way through which I'm experiencing it. Again, we know chemically, biologically, structurally, what it looks like in the brain, what parts of the brain process it. So we experience it. Our brain is absolutely active in that time. If you're meditating and you're experiencing the joy of oneness, the joy of the self, a good neuroscientist who's watching your brain scans is going to see areas of the brain light up and activate that are associated with joy. And areas of the brain that are associated with pain and separation are going to become much more quiet. So the brain is absolutely involved. It's not about joy without the brain. But it's joy that doesn't exist only in the brain. It's joy that actually permeates into both the very physical aspect of who we are, the cells of our being, energetically change. There's now some fun modern tools that actually know how to look at that. So the cells of the body, the energy of the body, actually changes when we experience it. And it percolates into a level of our consciousness, which ironically also, the brain is the medium for that. But it percolates into a deep level of our consciousness that stays with us even after the meditation. And so if the joy that I'm experiencing is joy from eating a pizza, or joy from eating a piece of chocolate, or joy from doing drugs, or joy, well, there's a half-life to all of that. The joy is going to dissipate. The drugs are going to wear off, the pizza's going to be over, the chocolate's going to be over. And I'm back to exactly where I was, unchanged. But if the joy that I've gotten is from meditating, if the joy that I've gotten is from an experience of who I am, that's going to stay with me. And that's going to make me much more likely to want to sit and meditate more in the future. And the more I meditate, the more that joy expands. And the more that becomes my nature in the rest of the world. And so my interactions in the world change based on my experience of that joy. So it has percolated into a much more core part of who I am than just pleasure areas of temporary sensual enjoyment. When it's real joy, nobody goes, oh God, my brain feels so good. You know, that's so great up here. Wow, 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 right? When we experience joy, we all go, oh wow. Yeah, we experience it here. We feel it here, absolutely. And when you look at, the chakras, the energy centers, well, the energy center of the heart is right here. When I talk about us experiencing joy in our brains, I'm really just talking purely scientifically. When there is joy in your life, if you happen to be hooked up to electrodes at that moment, your brain would give patterns that scientists would be able to say this woman is experiencing joy. But that doesn't mean you experience it in your brain. Yes, we absolutely feel it in our hearts. But the biological proof of that, you could say, the changes that are taking place begin in the brain, but then they absolutely move into our whole body. When it's real joy, God, you feel it everywhere. And that's true. It actually is happening everywhere. When there's real joy, and the brain is experiencing that level of joy, there's a whole cascade of reactions that take place that change everything, ranging from how we breathe to how our immune system functions, to all of that in the body. And that's just on a physical level. When we look on a spiritual level, the heart chakra is opening. And spiritually, of course, you feel it. But energetically also, with people who can read energy or some of the new fun machines, they even can see it. We know that's happening. Absolutely. So the fact that it's happening also in the brain doesn't mean that you experience it in the brain. It just means that that's the medium through which, if you didn't have a brain, you wouldn't experience joy in your heart. Because there'd be no bridge between that which brought you joy and your experience in your heart. The brain is that which actually processes things and lets us know, joy. And then our heart opens. The brain is our friend. Saying it happens in the brain does not minimize it in any way. It makes us realize, wow, what an amazing organ we've been given that takes all of experience and gives us a way of understanding it through the mind, through the heart, and through the body. Those tend to be the ways that we experience things. Sometimes it's in our gut. I mean, sometimes literally something happens and you feel it in your gut. So that's another place that sometimes we feel things that happen that have nothing to do with food. So all of these are different ways and places that we experience the emotions, the feelings. But if they're not being processed by the brain, if we didn't have a brain, if we were brain dead, you wouldn't have that reaction in your solar plexus. You wouldn't have that reaction in your heart. That's all it is. So it's a great tool. that we've been given. Sort of a central processing system. Sure, so how we move through the world. Well, I wouldn't think of it so much as a ratio. I would think of it more as an actor playing a role. So, let's say you're an actor and you play the role of a villain. So you get in your villain costume and you get your villain makeup put on and you've got your villain script and you get on the stage and you spend all day in rehearsals and performances. You are the villain. You do it very well. Crowd loves you. Everybody applauds. Your co-workers say, oh, that was fantastic. Best show ever. Your director loves you. Producer loves you. Everybody loves you. And the minute you get off the stage, you walk into the dressing room, or you go home, and you take off your costume, and you take a shower, and you wash off the makeup, and you put back on your normal clothes, and you're you. You don't go around killing your neighbors because you forgot that you're no longer the villain. You understand that's my role. This is who I am. And even while you were playing it, you knew that that was who you were. You never would actually kill your coworker. You understand this knife is fake, the gun is fake, the blood is fake. You're never going to actually strangle and kill somebody. No matter how much in the role you get. I mean, in all our history of drama, we never hear of an actor who actually killed their co-actor because they got so in the role that they forgot they were only supposed to act. And so they actually killed the other person on stage. Never happens. Even in the part fully as the most believable actors and actresses in the world, they're enough aware of the fact that they are who they are playing the role that they're not going to kill the coworker, even if they're the villain. So, in the same way, when we have that experience of who we really are, yes, we go through the world, we play our roles. We play them well. But we are aware of the fact that we're wearing costumes, we're wearing masks. Which is why it's so powerful in meditation. When you sit for meditation, one of the things that I very frequently begin with is let go of the masks. Let go of the roles. Literally just let them melt off your face. Because we wear them so frequently in the world. We play this role. We wear this mask. And so, yeah, we do go through the world. Yes, we play roles. Nothing wrong with it. It's wonderful. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna emphasizes how important it is to play your role. Play it well. That's your duty. And don't try to play anyone else's role. You do not get to change roles midway through this drama. You've been cast in a very specific role. You don't get to decide that this guy's role is, better one. You have to play yours. And you have to never forget that you're not the role. That you're the player of the role. So yeah, have a tennis match. Sure, why not? But when you lose that tennis match, don't kill yourself or your opponent. Don't go home feeling like a loser or a winner. Understand, it was play. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful act of the drama. And whether today you played the part of the guy who won the tennis match or you played the part of the guy who lost the tennis match, either way you had fun. Play the role well. But don't let that mask get stuck on your face so you forget who you are. And suddenly you think you are the tennis player. And so to lose the match is death. To win the match means I'm the best in the world. It's an act in the drama of your life. Regardless of what role we play. Some of us play the role of doctor, some play the role of teacher, some play the role of engineer, some play the role of stay-at-home mothers or fathers, some play the role of actors, some play the role of an actor, some play the role of an unemployed person, some play the role of beggar, some play the role of homeless person, some play the role of CEO of a company. What matters is not which role we play. What matters is that we understand that we are not the role that we are playing. And that we not identify the nature of the self with that role. And that can be done just as easily as a CEO, as the guy who makes coffee, or as a teacher, or as an engineer, or as an actor, or as a homeless person. I mean, it's not that there are some roles we're going to play that it's easier to remember this is just a role. Most people entirely forget they're playing role. The CEO forgets, the homeless person forgets. And everyone in between forgets. So whatever role we're playing, what's important to remember is, this is what I'm doing. Now that doesn't mean it's not important. It's vitally important. Because it is specifically the role that we've been cast to play. And so we have to play it very well. We have to play it full of sincerity. We have to play it in a way that we touch all of those, whether the other ones on the stage, those in the audience, or, whatever it is, all of those with whom our role interacts. How can we touch them all and leave them more positive than when we found them? So knowing it's a role doesn't mean that we take it lightly. We take it very seriously. But we don't identify as it. And so at the end of the day, like the actor takes the shower and washes off the makeup, in the same way we sit to meditate and we breathe out all of the roles we played. Whether today I played CEO, or today I played mailroom person, or I played secretary, or I played lawyer, or whatever role I played in my job. Breathe out the role we play in our relationships. Breathe out the role that I'm playing that's still impacted by my childhood, whatever I'm dealing with. Breathe out any of those identities. Breathe out any preconceptions that I have about myself. I'm smart, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm pretty, I'm old, I'm young, all of that. So that at least for a few minutes of the day we have an experience of sitting with the literally naked self. That isn't the job, that isn't the relationships, that isn't my history, that isn't what people have told me, that isn't what I can do. But sitting just in that place of isness. And then the next day, when I wake up, in that state of isness, I very consciously put on my costume and put on my masks, and okay, I go out and I play mother, and I play wife, and I play boss, or I play employee, or I play stay-at-home mom, or whatever I'm playing. But I'm aware of the fact that there is an I that isn't the mother, that isn't the wife, that isn't the employer, that isn't the stay-at-home one, that isn't the employee, that just is.